Okay, so in this video, we're going to be talking very quickly about just the different types of covers that you can have. So for me, covers are broadly speaking broken down into roughly 4 different categories. So we've got illustrative, minimalistic, typographic, and photographic. So we're mainly going to be focused on photographic covers, but I'll briefly go over the others just so you have an idea. Now, illustrated covers, like you see here, are mostly used for fantasy, children's titles, stuff like this. It's kind of when what you want on your cover doesn't really exist. Like, you would not believe how hard it is to get a massive pile of dead bodies. It's just unreal. So in terms of fantasy titles, unless you can draw at, like, say, this sort of level, please do not draw your own cover because it will not look good. Okay, so these are some of just my favorite artists on Twitter. They're really, really excellent. This woman here, Martina Fakova, she makes some absolutely beautiful covers. So for us, it's like, you might think, okay, maybe I'll draw my own cover. But to be honest, most of us stop drawing around about like school age, like say here or here, this sort of thing. And like, it's entirely possible to get up to this level, but you have to kind of commit to a couple of years of solid effort and like studying in terms of form, light, shadow, shape, all this sort of thing. It's very like it's possible to get there, but you're probably not going to want to spend like maybe 5 years to learn how to draw before you can draw your own cover. Now, if that's what you want to do, if you want to go for an illustrated cover, this is kind of one of those situations where it's definitely better to hire a professional. So jump on the artist Twitter, find a style you like, give the artist a DM. You know, you never know, they might be available for a commission. So in terms of children's titles, now you don't need to be the greatest artist in the world, but you do need to have a style that fits your book. So think like Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim. It doesn't necessarily have to be the greatest style in the world. Like here we have the Diary of the Wimpy Kid, which is like, it's over 200 million books sold. This is not exactly a super difficult style, but it is consistent. And I suppose that's probably the main key. It's like, if you can consistently draw the same thing, then I guess you can say that you've got a style. I would very much recommend drawing directly on a computer if you can, because drawing on paper and then scanning it will not look great. Okay. So after illustrated covers, we have minimalistic covers. Okay, so minimalistic covers can be a pretty good choice now when you're designing your own cover, because they generally feature little to no graphics, and the form that the text is presented becomes part of the story itself. It kind of lets you know what the story is about. For example, here, the ethics of interrogation, just a simple bare light bulb. It immediately evokes the kind of, I suppose, interrogation rooms that you might have seen on like 24 or any of these sort of TV shows. Again, this here, like a book called Faithful with an unlocked lock. I mean, it immediately tells you what sort of book that you're going to get. And Columbine, again, a book about the Columbine massacre. So the positioning of this photo, it's a very, very simple photo, and the text is literally just the name of the school. But because of how everything is positioned, it gives an immediate indication of the mood and the tone behind the book. So it does require a certain artistic vision, though, in order to kind of come up with the concept. For example, here, this is... You kind of need to have that sort of frame of mind in order to come up with that. But once you do, it can be a very, very striking cover. And sometimes it does mean that you need to create graphics, for example, here, which, as opposed to composing graphics, it's a little bit harder. So after minimalistic, we have typographic, and typographic covers are mostly seen in non-fiction books. So generally, the name of the book is the entire cover. So provided your idea doesn't need a lot of editing, it can be an excellent choice for a beginner. So some of these are quite similar to minimalistic, like here, for example. But how the text is presented, it literally tells the story of what the book is about as much as the title itself. So again, for example, some of this could be very, very simple to do. Others are a lot more detailed. Like here, this would be kind of a very hard cover to do. This one here immediately evokes the sort of the metalwork design that the book is probably about. So it's a very good cover. It's just, it's got lovely texture, this one. I mean, it's really very nice. And then finally, we're going to go on to photographic covers, which are mostly used in fiction, and that's what we're going to focus on. So they're fairly straightforward, which is pretty good for us. I don't have a slide for this one, so you just have to kind of imagine it. So whichever one that you choose is up to you. It's whichever one you feel the most comfortable with. So take a look at the top selling books in your niche or in your genre, and you'll probably see a lot of similarities in terms of form and layout. So these books are your direct competition. So your cover should kind of fit with the others. Now, it doesn't need to be a direct copy, but it shouldn't be a complete outlier either. So the benefit of following the forms here is that Joe Reader immediately knows what type of book he's getting. So if you have, for example, a favorite author, if you're writing in the style of Stephen King and your covers evoke a certain Stephen Kingness, then any fans of Stephen King will kind of immediately latch onto that, and they'll know that your book is kind of a book that they're probably going to enjoy. So also keep in mind that if you're designing or writing a trilogy or a series of books, you kind of want all of your covers to be consistent, which means either having repeatable or common elements. So just keep it in mind, if you're starting here, you don't want to do something like amazingly kind of knock it out of the park, and then for books 2 and 3 you're kind of out of ideas, or you don't have a way of replicating this sort of thing. So try to keep it simple. Like for example, Joe Abercrombie, his covers are very, very straightforward, but you immediately can link one to the other. So that's what you're kind of looking for.